I'm Amy Baxter, editor of Retail Leader, and welcome to Trend Talk. Every week on Trend Talk, we identify a retail trend and give it a deep dive with an industry insider. This week, we're talking Resale with Chairish, a vintage furniture, art, and home accessory sales service that is on the forefront of the burgeoning circular economy. My guest is Chairish co-founder and CEO, Gregg Brockway. So welcome, Gregg. Thanks so much for joining me. Can you tell me a little bit about how it works? People list their vintage furniture items for resale on Chairish, but do they send them to you first? Because there's some really spectacular items on the website, and the photos are too good for me to imagine that people are taking those at home.
Thank you, iPhone. It's really, photography has come a long way. The way the marketplace works is we accept inventory both from individuals as well as professional sellers. We support nearly 10,000 sellers around the US, 12,000 sellers around the world. And these are people who have beautiful items that deserve a new home, and we are the marketplace that tries to have sellers find the right buyers and make it all happen. So generally, yes, we are responsible for making sure that the item is safely delivered from the seller to the buyer, but we do not always warehouse the inventory. We make sure it's curated, and that's really important. So we make sure that the items are as described, that pictures are quality to highlight any nuances to the piece that are important, that the buyer, so that the buyer knows what they're getting. And so that's how we make it a positive experience for both buyers and sellers.
So I want to ask you a little bit about your latest earnings report. Chairish reported a 22% lift in sales during the third quarter. So could you go over some of the highlights from the quarter and why is furniture having such a big boom right now? You know, COVID had a lot of people spending more time at home, wanting to update their spaces. Has Chairish been feeling that trend and that lift as well?
Sure. Yes. We're a private company, so we don't share all of our results, but we think the general trends that are happening to the industry are important for our community to know about and be aware of. And yes, home furnishings has had an amazing last couple of years for several reasons. One is it was in the process of sort of the offline to online migration that every industry goes through as the software, gradually eats the world. And so even before COVID came along, home furnishings had become the fastest growing e-commerce category of any. So it was in high gear. And then with the arrival of COVID, it was a horrible experience. It had been a horrible experience on so many fronts. But for the home furnishings industry, it's been really wonderful to be able to help people improve their living spaces. As they found they needed homes for, not just sleeping, but working and schooling and gyms and all the other things. It was an important time for them to make their spaces more comfortable. And so that's been a huge positive for the industry. And then because Chairish is a curated marketplace with a lot of beautiful things that was already online, it became an even more attractive place for sellers to try and get their inventory in front of buyers, especially at a time when so many galleries were closed. For a while, we were the only way some folks were putting food on the table during some of the darker periods. But anyway, the overall trend has been very positive for the home furnishings industry. And when these accelerations happen, the world never goes back. So we don't expect the growth from here to be at nearly the same, remarkable rate that we've seen over the last 2 years. But we do expect there's a long way to go. It's still, it's definitely we're planning to see the growth continue.
Yeah, I want to ask you more about the intersection of online and resale in just a minute, but furniture is also kind of causing some headaches with consumers. There are months-long delays on new furniture in some cases. The supply chain issues have been really accelerated by the pandemic. So can you talk about how resale is maybe immune to some of those issues?
Sure. So we started as a resale marketplace focused on vintage product because we love it. We got to it because it's something that we're passionate about for personal reasons, and it's been really fun to see how so many millions of people have come to appreciate there's real environmental benefits to purchasing products that have been pre-loved. And so, for both these reasons, our business has done quite well during this time. But the bigger picture is, I think resale is very attractive because the items are available now. And one of the challenges that you just talked about is the lead times in getting new pieces has gone up and up and up. If it was 6 weeks prior to the pandemic, sometimes it can be 6 months today. And there are times when that's just not workable for people. And so vintage and the resale marketplace has become more interesting for people, both because it's a great way to get stylish, products. It's a earth-friendly way to furnish your home, and the items are ready to ship now. If they're in your city, in your neighborhood, you can pick them up this afternoon, and if they're somewhere else in the country, the shipping times are still real, but you don't have to add on to that, getting them shipped in from overseas or getting them made in the first place or customized in the first place. So it's a much more immediate way for people to furnish their home in a fashionable and comfortable manner.
Yeah. Since you started 8 years ago, have you seen more interest in resale now? I think especially younger generations, sustainability is like top of mind. And the pandemic also brought those values to the forefront for retail, I think.
We really have. I mean, we just put out our first resale report on the home furnishings industry because no one had tried to assemble a clear view of what was happening out there in the resale world. And we started Chairish because we were interested in vintage as a way to furnish our living space, and it's been very gratifying to see how so many more people, millions of people today, find it an attractive, positive thing to do for environmental reasons. One of the things in our resale report, 70% of consumers feel that addressing climate change is more important than ever, and nearly 60% of consumers believe that resale is an important part of sustainability, so an important part of addressing climate change. And so it has become more important for everybody, and it's become even more important for the younger folks who are moving into that mode of having to furnish their first or move into a more family-friendly home.
Yeah, and we reported on the report when you guys put it out. It was very cool. And one of the findings was the resale home furnishings category is projected to grow by 54% over the next 5 years, which is faster than traditional retail. So we've touched on this already, but can you talk to me a little bit how that growth is going? Like, how are you preparing for this huge interest in resale? Just expanding like your capabilities, or what's kind of on mind for you when you see that number?
Yes, this is the beginning, or this is an acceleration of trends that were already happening, and it's exciting. It's scary to see it happening faster than ever. We expect the resale market to grow 3 to 3.5 times faster than the overall home furnishings market. And so what we've done to get ready for that is we've raised a little bit of money, and we're hiring lots of people because we think that our community deserves the same level of service they've always had, and we just need more people to do it. And there's a bigger community of both buyers and sellers who have things to problems to solve, issues to address, solutions to find.
Is there any barrier of doing resale online? Because I think when you think of like thrifting, maybe you think of going to a thrift store or a consignment shop in person. And I'm wondering if over the last 8 years there's been any educational barriers or anything for the consumer that you've noticed of getting people to engage with resale online?
The biggest barrier to buying anything online is trust. And I think that gets to is the service that you're buying from a service that you can trust and rely upon. It is in some ways even harder for home furnishings than it is for apparel or other things, because these can often be larger, fragile, oversized items, and it's more difficult to transport those. So one of the first problems that we had to address, and we continue to try and get better at, is becoming really good at transporting items from the seller to the buyer. And that's not a problem that you often have with fashion or other categories where it's really easy to ship things. Some of our items are available for pickup, from local pickup. Most of our items are able to be shipped via parcel, meaning via UPS or similar, but some of the larger fragile items do need special handling. And so the length of time that you have to wait between when you find the piece that you want and it actually arriving to your home depends on what type of item you're actually looking for. And when things do not work out as expected, you need someone to help make it right. And so that's something we also work really hard to do and have a team that's been doing it for years now.